Good evening. Welcome to the Bradford County Historical Society's online Friday Night at the Museum program for this month. We would again like to thank the United Way of Bradford County for sponsoring Friday Night at the Museum this year. If you appreciate the programming that we've done online this year, we would request you to consider a donation to the Bradford County Historical Society. Normally we have a donation can at Friday Night at the Museum. In lieu of that, you can either follow the link below the video, make a donation through our website, or you may mail a donation to Bradford County Historical Society, 109 Pine Street, Towanda, PA 18848. This month's program is titled Researching Bradford County People and Places. Now, last year I went around the county and began speaking about the resources that are available for doing local history or genealogical research in Bradford County. We anticipated continuing that this year, but due to the pandemic that occurred, we were not able to do that. We also had anticipated having a workshop for members to learn how to use the Research Center this year, and we were also unable to do that. Instead, we've decided to combine those two things into a program this year so that you can learn online the resources that are available for researching. And those resources are organized into three different categories. The first is archival collections, and those are collections that you'll find in historical societies and museums. And so we'll cover what's at the Bradford County Historical Society. Archival collections also features public institutions or private collections. Next is government records, and that includes county courthouse records, which we will also refer to today, state archives, and Library of Congress. Those are some resources that you definitely want to check out if you're looking for specific information you can access through their websites, and we will discuss some of those websites later on. And then, of course, internet resources. There are both free websites and paid websites that can help you find some information. So those are the three categories of research methods that we will discuss today. So first, let's begin and talk about the Bradford County Historical Society's collection. Now, at the Bradford County Historical Society, we have both the collection that the Historical Society has gathered over the years, as well as official county records that come from the courthouse. So we're going to first concentrate on the types of records that are available that the Historical Society has collected over the years, and not the official county records. First of all, when someone comes into the Historical Society, one thing that they often look in are the major county history books that have been published. So on this screen, we have listed several of the ones that are used for just beginning your research. Those are History of Bradford County by David Kraft in 1878. That was the first history of the county that was published, and it's a very detailed history. It seems to be an excellent history for researchers. History of Seven Counties is a very small book published by the Elmira Weekly Gazette, but sometimes you can find material in there, as that was published in 1885. History of Bradford County by H.C. Bradsby, published in 1891. Bradsby's book is not so reliable on the township histories, but it is more reliable on the family histories. Because families had to pay to have their information included, they definitely wanted to make sure that their information was right. So generally, you can rely on the biographical information in the family section of the book. The township history section of the book, you can find large passages that Bradsby quoted direct from David Kraft, and so he seems to have copied a lot of his material and not necessarily focused on that history. Pioneer and Patriot Families of Bradford County, there were two volumes, one in 1913 and the second one in 1915. That's an excellent resource if you're researching early family history in Bradford County, families that came in the early days of the county. If you're trying to trace your family back to that point in time, you'll probably find some reference to your family in there if they were early settlers of the county, particularly prior to 1840s. History and Geography of Bradford County, 1926. This was a book that was published by C.F. Heverly, and it was intended to be a school textbook for the one-room schools of the county in order to teach students local history. And so it's a pretty good overview of the county, although it's not as detailed as David Kraft's history, but it does include some additional history that Kraft had researched. So overall, it's a good book. Bradford County, A Chronology of History is a good thing to check to try to find references in the Daily Review to events that might have happened between 1924 and 1975. Bradford County, The Story of Its People was a book published by Dr. Marcella Hyde of Canton, and this was, again, intended to be a school textbook, so it's a very basic history of the county, but definitely worth checking for general overall themes in county history. History of Bradford County, done in 1995 by the Bradford County Historical Society, was the last major overall county history done and includes a large township section and a large family section. The family section had biographical information and genealogical data that was submitted by many different families to make up that section. And so you'll find a lot of information from families pertaining to their history throughout the period that the book covers, which basically picks up where Bradsby left off and goes up until 1995. And then there's early community histories. So if you're looking for history of a specific part of the county, you might check into some of these. Clement Heverly published the books History of Albany in 1885, History of Monroe in 1885, History of the Towanda in 1886, History of Shashequin in 1902, and the History of Overton in 1910. Another good book on the Tioga Point area is Early Times on the Susquehanna by Mrs. George Perkins in 1906. That's a good reference. And then also in that area, History of Old Tioga Point and Early Athens is another book available, which was done by Louise Wells Murray. And then there are many smaller hardcover and softcover booklets that have been done over the years, and those booklets, they're a little bit more difficult to find, but we do have many of them available at the Bradford County Historical Society to research. And so it's a good place to find localized histories that didn't have many copies printed. Oftentimes you don't find those on the internet, and so the Historical Society is a good place to find that. Photographic histories. Many times you can learn a lot from photographs if you're researching the history of your community. And so some of the ones that have been done over the years, Pictorial and Written History of Bradford County. There were 2 volumes done by Elwin Kai, and that's a general overview of county history and his collection of postcards and photographs at that time. Bradford County Bicentennial of Photographic History was done in 2012. That covers all of the townships in the county and includes pictures from each municipality there. And then Images of Southwestern Bradford County was done in 2014 by the Leroy Heritage Museum and covers the southwestern corner of Bradford County with images from that area. Also, you have atlases, and the 2 that we check, which are the only 2 that were done for Bradford County. First of all, is the map of Bradford County in 1858 was not published as an atlas. It was a wall map intended for use in the one-room schools of Bradford County. This map has each property owner identified on the map all over the county and showing where they lived. So it's a good resource to try to find where someone was located in the 1858 period. The Historical Society published this as an atlas in 2010. And each township was scanned, and then the entire map was indexed, and that is available for purchase at the Historical Society, or you can come and use it for research as well. The Atlas of Bradford County in 1869 was an atlas that was published and operates about the same way as the map did, in which each property owner is identified on the map showing where they lived at that time. Then there are directories. 2 of them cover all of Bradford County, the directory of 1900 and the one for 1907. And those are good to help you locate where someone might have been in the county, what they were doing, maybe how much property they had at the time, and exactly what they did for a living. And then there are a number of individual borough directories for the larger towns in Bradford County available for multiple years. And again, those are available in the Historical Society Research Library, and those are another resource that you typically don't find on the internet. Military histories are also available. Our Boys in Blue is a 2-volume set that was published by Clement Heverly, who was librarian for the Historical Society in the early days, and then he published in 1898 Volume 1 and in 1908 Volume 2, So if you had Bradford County ancestors who were in the Civil War, you will likely find their names in the book if they went from Bradford County, and sometimes even if they didn't. And for a number of soldiers, he included personal stories of things that they went through during the war. The history of the 141st Regiment of PA Volunteers was done by David Kraft, who had done the Bradford County history as well. And this covers the 141st Regiment that was made up mainly of Bradford County men. So if you happen to have relatives who were in the 141st, that's a good reference for you to learn about what they went through during the Civil War. Presidents, Soldiers, and Statesmen is a good reference as well. It includes some biographical information and military data for Bradford County men who were in the war, and it's kind of mixed together with also biographical data for national figures as well. Defending Democracy, Bradford County in World War I, A Centennial Remembrance, was the World War I history that the Bradford County Historical Society published in 2017 on the anniversary of the war. And that is a comprehensive book that covers those from Bradford County who served in World War I, and it covers the things that they went through during the war. So if you're looking for a relative who might have served in World War I, you likely will find their name in the book. Then there are periodicals available. Several different historical societies or museums have published periodicals over the years. The first is the annual, published from 1906 to 1918, and then restarted again in 2018 by the Bradford County Historical Society, and there's historical information that can be found in there. The Settler magazine, published by the Historical Society beginning in 1952, continues to be published today, and both the annual and the Settler are available for research in the Historical Society's research library. The newsletter was published in 1984 to 2006 by the Canton Area Historical Society, and this features information about the southwestern Bradford County area. The quarterly was published in 1989 and continues to be published up to the present by the Sayre Historical Society. Once Upon a Time, it's a newsletter published in 1982 to 2008 by the Tuscarora Township Historical Society. And the Monogram, which was begun in 2002 by the Leroy Heritage Museum and continues to be published today, covering the southwestern Bradford County area. It basically replaces the newsletter that the Canton Area Historical Society had once published. So now we're going to talk about some of the resources in addition to books that are available. We have many different things that researchers, again, cannot find on the internet. These are things that are specific to the Historical Society, and you have to come to the Historical Society to be able to access. First of all, we have family files, and you'll see a picture here of all of the many file cabinets full of files that make up the family file collection that we have. Now, the family files are made up of papers that have been collected on various families over the years. These papers might be something that were donated by people over the years. They might be research letters from people who sent in inquiries looking for information. They might be other genealogical data that we found along the way and filed under a specific family name. When you come to the research library, this is one of the first things that our volunteers or our research clerk will pull out for you. It's a good place to start to see if you find anything connected to your family in the file already, and then you can continue to go from there. Much like the family files, we also have subject files, and if you're looking for local history information or general history of the county, our subject files fill several filing cabinets, and it's more of a topical listing. And so if you're looking for a specific topic or town history or something of that nature, we can pull out a file pertaining to that. Over the years, we've added different pieces of information, copies, and things to the files as it's either been donated or we found it along the way. Now, abstract cards, along with the family files, are one of the first things that our volunteers will pull out when you come to the research center. Abstract cards are cards that feature information about birth, death, and marriages in Bradford County. These were created a number of years ago by a volunteer who went through our entire newspaper collection And every time she found a birth, death, or marriage, she made a card referencing that information and the newspaper and the date where it was found, so that a researcher could refer to that specific article and get a copy of it. And that's what you can do here. You can go through the cards. If you find a name that pertains to your relative, you can go further and use our microfilm collection to look up that information and possibly find even more information in the newspapers. There are thousands of names in our abstract card collection, and it's an excellent resource for anyone looking up a specific person. It's a good place to start when you're researching Bradford County families. Now, the picture on the right shows our large collection of original county newspapers going back many years. We have approximately 60% of all newspapers published in Bradford County are at the Bradford County Historical Society, and many are microfilmed, and so you don't have to actually handle the original newspapers. The microfilm collection will lead you where you need to go. We also have digitized several other newspapers, the Canton Sentinel and the Canton Independent Sentinel, the Troy Gazette, and some other papers related to Troy that are available digitally, and we can make copies from those just like we can make from the microfilm. Now, just like we have family files, we have larger family collections, and sometimes over the years a family has donated many different things, and we have organized those into acid-free archival storage boxes and labeled them. So if you come in and you happen to be looking for information on a family that we might have a box on, we will pull that information off the shelf and you can access that collection. We also have Hoagland's files, which are shown on the left here, which is an extensive genealogical collection produced by one man over a number of years. And oftentimes people can find references to families they're researching in that collection as well. We also have a large genealogical research library, and again, like the family files, there are books and binders of information that have been donated over the years, and we keep those in a library-style format, and you're able to browse those shelves and look for something that might pertain to your research interest, and then pull that out and bring it back out into the research area and use that for research. We have many different family genealogical books and records available for you to use. Also, we have a subject library which contains books that pertain to Bradford County topics that have been collected over the years as well, or state-related books. We also have a local history library, and as I mentioned earlier on in this video, we have a number of smaller local history books that have been created over the years, not necessarily always published, but at least put together by a researcher, and we have made those available in our local history library section. And then we have research books on counties bordering Bradford County, and history of churches, history of fires in the county, history of the Susquehanna Company lands. There's just a number of resources available there that you don't want to miss out on. Again, many of these records are not available on the internet. We also have rare local histories, and these are accessed by our staff and volunteers only. But if we are aware of what you're searching for, we are able to look up and find a particular book that we might have that you can use for your research. We have a military history collection which features a lot of information, especially on the Civil War and some World War I, some Revolutionary War information, and so on. And that's a valuable thing if you're researching a specific regiment, perhaps in the Civil War that your relative served in. Sometimes those regimental histories are difficult to find, and you can come and research those here. The Pennsylvania Archives are a number of different volumes of books that contain reprints, basically, of state-related documents that the originals of which are in the Pennsylvania Archives. And if you're researching Native American history in our area or Revolutionary War era, this is a particularly good resource for finding documents and things that you would otherwise have to travel to the Pennsylvania Archives to find. So these books are a valuable resource for those researching that era of history. We also have a number of scrapbooks and scrapbook collections that have been donated over the years. Some of them have been indexed, and so they're available for research, and our volunteers can pull out the ones that are relative to your research project. Another resource are ledgers and family Bibles that we have in our collection. Those have been indexed in our computer system so that we can find those, and those could be stored ledgers, they could be diaries, there could be, again, family Bibles. They're particularly interesting because they are original writings of early settlers of Bradford County in many cases. Our manuscript files features original paper items in our collection, and they are organized by family, and then we have a separate section organized by township. And that's a good place to find things like school souvenir booklets, items that pertain to specific organizations or businesses in the county. These are historic papers and manuscript items that would not be in the normal family files or subject files because of their delicate nature. We also have many cemetery records from volunteers who have read the cemeteries over the years. And if you're looking for specific information, sometimes you can find that on the internet, but sometimes it's also hard to tell whether what you find on the internet is accurate. And so we have a number of records here that you can use as a backup as well to double check. Over the years, gravestones deteriorate and the information on them disappears little by little. And so these cemetery records are a valuable resource for people wanting to find that information. If you're researching school history, or you have a relative who served as a school teacher or maybe a school board member, the school records in our collection can be useful. We don't have school records covering every school in the county, but we do have a number of attendance registers from many one-room schools in the county. We also have a large collection of ledgers that belong to the county superintendent of schools, in which he kept record of each school in each township and the teacher's name who taught each year and what they were paid and so on. So if you're looking for information on teachers in the county, that's an excellent resource to find that information. Along with school-related information, we have a large yearbook collection. We're always looking to add to that to try to find and fill in gaps in our collection. But if you're researching school history, or you're researching a specific person and when they went to school, or you're trying to find a picture of them, that type of information would be available in our yearbook collection. And we have a number of yearbooks for each of the schools in the county. There are also records of many different organizations throughout the county in our collection. This just shows a few pictures of some Oddfellows organizations and Grange, but we have other records as well that are available, and you can find out what is available in our research center. If you're looking for DAR records, we have a large collection of DAR lineage books of women who have joined the DAR over the many years it's been in existence. And you can find information pertaining to them and their genealogical data in those books. The Bradford County Historical Society also has a number of maps in its collection. There's a map inventory on our website that you can refer to, and we also have maps that hang on the wall in our research center, which are some of the more well-known maps of Towanda and Bradford County, and you can search those while you're in the research library. We have a large photograph collection. On the left, the picture shows the subject files, which are organized by township. The second photograph from the left shows the family files. So the gray boxes we have organized by folder, and each folder is a different family, and then there are larger family collections around those as well. We also have a large glass plate negative collection. The photo third from the left are glass plate negatives in our collection, of which we have thousands of glass plate negatives available, and we do make prints from those, and you can order prints. You can find an index to those on our website, And then on the right are more modern negative collections, including the Stanley Clark collection. Stanley Clark worked for the Daily Review for a number of years, and also the Fazika collection and the Campbell collections are all various negative collections that are available. These images show an example of some pictures produced from our glass plate negative collection. Each of these photos are indexed, and you can find the indexes on our website at bradfordhistory.com. Here's some examples of children's photos. And the research information for the Historical Society. On a normal year, we are open Wednesday through Friday 10 to 4, year-round, and the first Saturday of each month 10 to 2. Now this year, due to COVID-19, we have had hours only by appointment, and so you have to call 570-265-2240, and you can arrange an appointment to do research. If, however, you're unable to travel to the Bradford County Historical Society or you're unable to come in, the Historical Society offers a paid research request service, and the form that's shown here is a form available on our website. You can download that. There are fees for research, and you just fill that out, send your payment along, and our researchers will do the work for you. Because this is done by volunteers, it can take up to 6 months to complete, depending on the number of requests we have at any certain time. If you're a member of the Bradford County Historical Society, there are discounts available for you for these research requests as well. So you can find that information again on our website under the Library tab. So next we're going to talk about Bradford County Public Records. And we're going to talk about the public records that are available in the Bradford County Historical Society. Now, because the Bradford County Historical Society is located in Towanda and is a short distance from the county courthouse, we are able to be a repository for official county records that were originally stored at the courthouse but may have been microfilmed or digitized over the years, and some of them may not have been either, but they have been preserved and are made available at the Historical Society for those researching history. So if you're looking for information of this nature, you don't always have to go to the courthouse, although you can, but oftentimes you can find what you're looking for at the Historical Society. First, a good place to start is a book that was published in 1946 called Inventory of the County Archives, and this book outlines the type of record books that are available that have been produced by the county over the years, and you can get an idea of what books you're actually looking for. It makes it a lot easier if you come in to the Historical Society and you're looking for certain records, and you can point to an actual listing in that book, because there are so many different volumes of county records available. It shortens the time that it takes for us to find what you're looking for. We have this book available at the Historical Society, so you can certainly look through it there. We also sell copies of this book in the research library as well. So the first thing available is at the Historical Society are deed books. The Historical Society has all of the deeds back to 1812 and extending up to about 1997. So if you can provide a book number and a page number, we can pull out the original deed if necessary. We also have them on microfilm as well, and you can find them digitally at the courthouse. But sometimes the microfilm process or the digital scanning process was not good enough to capture the deed. So we can pull out the original if that's necessary. To go along with the original deed books, we also have record books, and record books are kind of a combination of deeds and mortgages all in one. That was done in later years, but these books cover many years of history, and so for researching a specific property, you can research them through the deed books. You can also use the deed indexes. We have both binders that were created by our volunteers years ago, as well as original county indexes of the deeds that you can use to find deeds. Maybe if you're researching a property and the specific deed that you have doesn't refer to the previous owner, sometimes a good option is to check the deed indexes, and that will give you some leads that you can check out to help you find a deed. Next, we have mortgage books available for research. They're not used quite so often as the deed books are, but if you're tracing the history of a property, the mortgage book sometimes will help you be able to trace something that you could not find otherwise. There are also indexes available for the mortgage books as well, so you're able to find what you're looking for by using those indexes. The tax assessment books are a resource that is very valuable for researchers. A assessment book was done each year for each township or municipality in Bradford County, and in each book you'll find the names of all of the property owners and what they owned that year, what their job was, and so on. And so that's a good resource to figure out when someone might have moved into the area or when they left. It also might help you find out when they built a house, or what buildings they had at a certain time, or how much land they owned, or when they sold to someone. That's a good resource for that type of information. We also have property record cards that are older, and these sometimes are good to use along with the maps from the assessment office, which we have a set of, and you can find out information about a particular property and then property owner using these as well. Now, oftentimes people come in and they ask about birth and death records, and so this is the information that you need to know about researching birth and death in Bradford County. Prior to 1893, birth and death records were not recorded by the county or the state. So that means that the abstract cards that I referred to previously, that refer to the newspapers, are very important because in those newspapers you're able to find references to marriages or births that there are no other documentation for. So keep that in mind. 1893 is the date. Birth records from 1893 to 1905 are on file at the Bradford County Courthouse, and death records from 1893 to 1905 are at the Bradford County Historical Society. All the records from 1906 to the present are on file at the Pennsylvania Department of Health, Division of Vital Records, Newcastle, Pennsylvania, so you have to contact them for that information. Original birth records from 1906 to 1914 and death records from 1906 to 1969 are at the Pennsylvania State Archives, so that's where you need to contact to get that information. And digital copies of these records are also now available on Ancestrycom. So if you have access to Ancestry.com, that's a good place to start to look for these types of vital records. And then if you can't find them there, usually it's the death records that are available on Ancestry.com. But if you can't find what you're looking for there, you can contact these other agencies to find the information that you need. Marriage records began to be recorded in the Bradford County Courthouse on October 1st, 1885, and all original records from 1885 to 1997 are housed at the Bradford County Historical Society. So you can come in. We also have indexes that you can look this up on when you're here, and you can find the information that you need. The original signed documents are all in bound books, and we can make copies of those for you as long as the books are the style that can come apart. Again, prior to being recorded officially in the courthouse, the abstract cards is the place that you want to look, because that will refer to the newspapers where marriages oftentimes were mentioned in the news columns of each newspaper. Wills and probate information is also found at the Historical Society, particularly the older information. And so we have many of the register's dockets available where you will find this type of information. And we also have the original files that contain the original papers. There might be original wills that were made out and signed, or you'll find probate information and papers that were filed when that person passed away. It's literally different for each person that you pull a file for, and so we can come in and you can find the index for this, and you'll be able to know where to find this information. And again, as long as the book is able to come apart, we're able to make a copy of that material. The general rule is that if a book doesn't come apart and it's going to damage the book to try to copy it, then we don't copy it, and you have to hand transcribe it. However, many of the books come apart, and that is not an issue, and we are able to make copies of those. We also have naturalization records, and these original records are available in our research library. So if you're looking for someone who immigrated to Bradford County, you can find them in these records. This is an excellent resource, and sometimes you'll even find a photo of a person connected to a record when they submitted their documentation. And sometimes you get lucky in that way. But there's a lot of information that's really good that's available in these books. We also have military enrollment records for several different years, and that contains enrollment information for each person who happened to join in those years. And we have veterans records. So we have the cards that show where someone might be buried in the county, and we have soldier burial records that contain the information for widows, perhaps, whose husband was in the military and he passed away, and a file was created when the graves marker or the burial was paid for. And so you'll find some interesting information recorded among those files as well if you're researching a particular veteran in your family. We have voter registration files available. These date back into the 1940s era. And these are a good resource because they give you information like eye color and height and things that are not necessarily found anywhere else. So if you're researching someone who might have been registered in Bradford County as a voter at that time, you might be able to find some information on them through that means. Bradford County Poorhouse records are also available. If you had a relative or you're researching someone who was in the Bradford County Poorhouse, or they also call it the almshouse, we have the official inmate register of there, and you can find information about them, when they were checked in, when they left or passed away, and other information about them. This book also contains information about those who were buried in the Poorhouse Cemetery up on the hill behind the Bradford County Jail. This is a good resource if you're researching anyone who might have been in the poorhouse or the almshouse many years ago. We also have civil court records. These cover a number of different years, covering civil court cases that occurred in Bradford County. Unfortunately, there was never an index created for this material. There is not one at the county courthouse, and we do not have one here. The only reference there may be is a reference that is made in some other sort of official county document that might refer back to this. But if you're looking for something court-related that occurred in a specific time period, these records are organized by court term, and there are 4 terms a year, and so you need to know the court term year and month, and then you're able to search the records for that particular court term to see if you can find the information you're looking for. If you're really lucky and you're able to find an actual number for the case, then it makes it a little bit easier to find. But generally, the records are still in the original form that they were originally stored in the courthouse attic many years ago. But we have transferred them now into acid-free archival safe storage boxes and folders and such, so it makes it a little bit more organized for you to search. But there is some good information available if you're able to find something in those records. We also have random court record books. These are some examples of those: jury records, plaintiff's index to judgments. There are some justice of the peace ledgers for different areas of the county as well. Bradford County Commissioner's Minute books are also available, and those outline actions taken by the commissioners over the years. And we have the books leading up into the early 1900s and going back to the beginning of the county in 1812. Lease books, this covers oil and gas leasing in the county, going back to the early days of oil and gas leasing. And so the older oil and gas leases for the county can be accessed in these books. Bridge records, the history of the county-owned bridges, can be accessed in these books. There are not a lot of these records available, but if you're able to find the history of a bridge in these books, oftentimes you can find some interesting data as far as when it was erected, what it costs, and any other notes about that particular bridge. Those are some examples of county records that are available in our collection. It's often best to call ahead if you know that you're going to need a certain county record, and give us the time to find that. We have a lot of records that we manage here, and oftentimes it is not possible to immediately pull something off the shelf because it's not always stored directly in the library itself. It may be in a different part of the building. So if you're able to call ahead, that certainly helps us out and helps us to get things prepared for you so that when you do arrive, there's no wasted time and everything you are looking for is available. Sometimes, particularly in the court records, not all of the records have been saved for some reason or another. And so if someone is looking for a particular case, perhaps in the records, we might check the record and find that those court cases are missing from the record. And sometimes if that's the case, it's not really necessary for you to travel to the Historical Society because the information will be missing anyway. That's not always the case, but every so often we find that there are records that do not exist for some reason. So again, it's a good idea to call ahead and let us know as far as county records go what you are looking for so we can have that available. So lastly, we're going to talk about fee-based and free resources that are available on the internet. Now, I alluded to the fact previously that online resources are just that. They are a resource. Oftentimes, we run into people who have a membership to Ancestry.com, and they have done all of their family genealogical research on Ancestry.com, and they have never visited a county historical society or a local organization that deals with genealogy. The problem with that is the majority of records out there are not available on the internet, and they never will be available on the internet because the cost of doing that is outrageous. So while you can find a lot of records available on Ancestry.com, you'll never find everything that might be available just by using online resources. So again, the internet is a resource, just like all of these other things I've mentioned in this video are a resource. It's something that you want to check, but it's not the only resource to check because you'd be missing out on important information, things that will help you maybe break through that brick wall that you have pertaining to genealogy. And if you don't ever access what's available at local historical societies and actually go to those places to do research or just write to them and have a research request done, you may not have all the information that is available out there. And so what we provide in the Historical Society is access to Ancestry.com, access to Newspapers.com, and access to Fold 3, which is another website pertaining to military records. And you can access those free through the research library. You have to use it in the research library when you're here, but it is available to our researchers to use. Again, it's another resource that is available, and we'll talk about more of them in this section. So first on the list is Ancestry.com. Ancestry.com is a paid resource. You have to have a membership in order to access it. Of course, again, if you come to our research library, it is available in our research library. But Ancestry.com contains access to a number of records that are of importance. Census records, some military records, naturalization records, just a lot of resources. There's also many other people who have shared their genealogy on Ancestry.com that you can use and maybe connect with those people and share information and so on. What you have to be careful of with Ancestry.com is the information that's being provided by other researchers. Not every researcher researches the same way, and someone may provide information on there that may not be thoroughly vetted. It may not be researched, and it may not have sources to back it up. So if you went on Ancestry.com and found someone that had done some research and it looks very similar to some names you have, and you just grab that thinking it's the same thing without checking the sources, you can be adding incorrect information to your genealogy research. And so what you want to do when you're using Ancestry.com is to make sure that you're looking at original documents and don't just use the digital interpretation of those documents or someone else's interpretation. You want to look at the actual documents and try to use those as best as possible. And always check the sources and always provide sources for anything you use off from there. But Ancestry.com can be useful, again, as a tool to find information that you need for your genealogical research. So on this screen that's shown, typically what happens with Ancestry.com is that you will go in and you can enter the name of the person you're looking for and what information you know about them, begin a search, and then a search list such as this comes up. And I just did a search for John Smith, and John Smith comes up here, and there might be something that appears familiar to you, and you'll click on that particular item. So I clicked on John Smith's census record for 1900, and this page comes up. And when this comes up, this will give you information about John Smith and his family, and you can see whether that's the John Smith you're looking for or whether you need to go back and continue looking through the list. What you should always look for is the original document shown over on the left of the page. It's a good idea to click on that, open it up, and actually look at the information yourself and not just go by the listing that's done there for you by Ancestry.com, because that information or the spelling is not always accurate. So again, make sure these sources are accurate, and this can be a good resource to use. Fold 3 is a military-related website. I already mentioned that's available in the Historical Society as well, and this is for finding information pertaining to military enrollment and other military records for many different wars. You can see listed on the website here. Penn Pilot is a website that you can use, produced by Penn State University, to find imagery of Pennsylvania that was taken from aircraft. So you're looking at aerial photos many years ago. Now, since I originally made this presentation, Penn Pilot now no longer exists, and it's being incorporated into another resource under Penn State University. So this particular website, as it's stated, will not exist anymore. But they are saying that this material will be available under their mapping website, which I do not have handy, but if you visit Penn State University's website, you can find that information. The good thing about Penn Pilot is that the dots on the map shown here each represent areas that aerial photography was taken in a certain year, and there are different eras that you can choose. And when you click on the dot, you can open up an aerial shot that's very high resolution that shows you at that particular area. And so if you're researching the history of a community or even of a certain property, it gives you a good view of a section of the county that you may be looking for. Of course, Joyce Tice's genealogy website that she has compiled for a number of years, even though she doesn't add as much to the site anymore, there's still a lot of records available on there from many years of work done by Joyce and her volunteers, and it's still worth checking out. And Joyce also has the History Center on Main Street in Mansfield, where she has records available there for research as well. Find a Grave is a website that is dedicated to compiling information about cemeteries and grave sites and helping you find where someone might be buried. And so The point of Find a Grave is you go into there and you type in the name of a person, any information that you have about them that it asks, and then you can search, and many times you can find a picture of a gravestone of someone that you're looking for. But if it's not there, you can also request someone to go take a picture of it as well. Find a Grave is free to use as far as searching goes, but if you want to add content to it and correct anything and so on, you do have to sign in for that. But Find a Grave is a good resource when you're trying to find graves, and instead of traveling around in a vehicle for hours on end trying to find the cemetery where someone might be buried, Find a Grave is a good resource to start with that. Now in Bradford County, our county records are placed on a website called landex.com, and at this website, landex.com/webstore, you can find deeds, mortgages, wills, and sometimes other documents as well. And it's free to research a name, but it's a paid website as far as being able to download any sort of documents. But if you're looking for recent documents, that's a good place to start your search. You don't have to necessarily go to the courthouse to find that information. You can find it on the internet. This is Pennsylvania Imagery Navigator, and this is the website I mentioned previously that I believe the Penn Pilot maps are being placed on this site as well, if I'm not mistaken. And on here, there are a number of other maps of the state that you can access. And one of the interesting maps that's available is the LiDAR hillshade maps, which allow you to see the ground terrain without the trees and the vegetation on. And so this particular picture shows an example of that. This shows the actual town of Barclay on Barclay Mountain and what it looks like without the vegetation on. What's interesting about this is that you can see things in the map that you would not be able to see just using aerial photography. And when you look at this map, you can see locations of old rail beds and mining areas, old roads, and so on. Now this is an example of Barclay, but you can use this in any part of Pennsylvania or any part of Bradford County. If you're looking for perhaps an old homestead site or something of that nature, this will help you find where the ground has been disturbed over the years and maybe lead you to something that you didn't know was there otherwise. Another resource available are the Sanborn Fire Insurance Maps, and these are available free through Penn State University's online library collection. And the Sanborn Fire Insurance Maps are a good resource because you will find these maps for the major towns in the county, and they are very detailed, showing all of the buildings in the town at that particular time, what was in them, oftentimes how they were built, and so on. These are maps that were created, just as they say, for fire insurance purposes and to help them determine the risk of a certain building, perhaps, or to help them understand what kind of fire risk a certain building might have. But these were done every so many years through the late 1800s, early 1900s, and so it gives you an opportunity to see the main business district of the large towns in Bradford County and what was there at the time. And so they're excellent maps. You can zoom in on them, you can download them. They're high resolution. I encourage you to check that out. That's an excellent resource. This is an example of what you'll find in a Sanborn map. This shows Canton, for instance, and it shows you the various buildings, and it shows you what was in them, what type of store was there, whether it's one-story or two-story, sometimes what type of roof, is there a firewall there, what type of hydrant might be available for firefighting nearby. So there's just all sorts of interesting information that you would not find anywhere else. Newspaperscom, again, this is a paid website. This is also available for research at the Historical Society. But Newspapers.com more and more seems to have a lot of Bradford County newspapers available on it. Definitely worth checking out. It's a searchable website, so you can search by words and search various newspapers and search specific dates and find information in Bradford County newspapers that you're looking for. It's an excellent resource, but not all newspapers for Bradford County are on there, and the Historical Society has many newspapers in our collection that are not available on Newspapers.com. So if you're looking for information, Newspapers.com is one resource again, but it's not the only resource available when you're searching newspapers. Another newspaper-related website is Fulton Search, and that's a good New York-related website, and you can find information and newspaper articles from New York newspapers in there, and that's a good resource for newspapers. Another one is Chronicling America, which is a Library of Congress project, and a lot of free newspaper resources are available there, and I was able to find some Bradford County related material on that one. Also, New York State Historic Newspapers.org. Again, this is another project in which newspapers are available to browse from different parts of New York State. The Digital Archives of Green Free Library in Wellsboro, they have various local newspapers available for research through their website, and that includes some Bradford County titles as well. Of course, the Bradford County Historical Society's website is a good place also to look. We have material available there to help you understand what kinds of things are available to research in our collection. Now, you can't use the website to research those items, but you can use the website to help you understand what types of material are available to access. And you access that by clicking on Library at the top of the page, and then Resources on the left side of the page once that opens, and it'll take you to a long list that you can click on, and you can get more information about each type of material available. The Bradford County Library also lists on their website a number of resources that are available for those that are researching, and so they have some newspapers there as well for you to research on microfilm, as well as some other periodicals and other items available for research. The Tioga Point Museum has a pretty good inventory on their website of the types of things they have available in their collection for research as well, and you can visit those by going to their website at tiogapointmuseum.org. Leroy Heritage Museum also has a list on their website of items that are available for that part of the county to research. The Pennsylvania State Archives also is another good place to go. You can find information on there as far as what is contained in their archival collection, and then you can find out how to go there and what the procedure is for accessing those records. And then sometimes you can find specific books that have been scanned and are available online for free by going to Google Books and searching there. And oftentimes, for instance, this is a genealogy, and I was able to find some Holcomb information just by bringing this one up. And so Google Books is a good place to search to see if you just might find a rare genealogical book or a local history book that the Google Book site has scanned and made available for you. If you're looking for patents, that maybe a local person did a patent many years ago, Google Patents is a good place to search for patent information. This particular one on the screen is a hanger from the Belmar Manufacturing Company, LM Marble. Shows one of their patent drawings, so you can find the drawings and the information submitted on that website for any patent that was granted over the years. Also, Google has something called Google News, in which they have put a number of newspapers online for research purposes as well, and that's available for free. And sometimes you can find specific family websites that pertain to your family genealogy. This one, for instance, pertains to the Holcomb family, who are my relatives, and this person has done a large website of many branches of the Holcomb family that pertain to Bradford County. But you also might find other people out there that have done websites on other families that pertain to the county as well. So it's certainly worth searching Google to try to find whether there might be a specific website that pertains to your research. And that is a good overview of the resources that are available both at the Historical Society, also county records at the Historical Society, and online resources as well. Certainly there's a lot of things available out there to help you find the information you need to find, either to tell your family's story or to tell your community's story. The Bradford County Historical Society is the place to start. It has the largest collection in Bradford County pertaining to genealogy and local history, and you want to check out the website at bradfordhistory.com. And again, the library section is a good place to start to find what kind of resources are available. And you can also find the research request form there, and also information on becoming a member of the Bradford County Historical Society. When you become a member of the Historical Society, one of the benefits is that you can come and use the research library during our regular hours without having to pay the $10 fee every time you come in. If you're a non-member, there's a fee of $10 each time you come, which helps to support the operation of the Historical Society, helps us keep the lights on, helps us pay the gas bill. But if you're a member, you're able to come and not have to pay that each time. And also, as I previously mentioned, even if you wanted to mail in a research request, if you're a member of the Historical Society, you get discounts off from the costs of the research. You get discounts on the cost of copies, whether you are at the Historical Society or you're mailing in a research request. You get discounts on copy costs. So there's a number of benefits available for becoming a member of the Historical Society. So we'd encourage you to do that. You can just go to the website at bradfordhistory.com, click on Become a Member, and there's a place where you can become a member online. You can have a digital membership, which means you'll get our Settler magazine sent to you online, and you can also do it the traditional way, which is where we send the magazine to you in the mail, and we send the Settler out 4 times a year, and we send the annual out 1 time a year with an annual report of what we have accomplished during the year. So membership is a great thing at the Bradford County Historical Society. It's very affordable. There's rates there for seniors, and so we would encourage you to check that out. So thank you again for joining us for this overview of what material is available for researching in Bradford County. We hope you learned something that you didn't know before about where to find some resources that might help with your genealogical or historical research. See you next time.